Welcome back. On today's episode of Self Love Ignited, I am interviewing Linda Binns. Linda talks to us all about how growing up, she always just felt like she didn't quite belong and that there was something that was just not quite right about her. She is introverted, and what she realized through adulthood is that she is a highly sensitive and empathic person. Through this, she experienced how difficult it can be to thrive in a world where you are seen as different. Linda works as an energy coach, and her mission is to help professional women love themselves and their life by releasing the invisible emotional energy and pain that makes them feel unhappy and stressed, no matter what they do, and learn to embrace their uniqueness. My name is Katie Allen, and this is Self Love Ignited. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Self Love Ignited. On today's episode, I am interviewing Linda Binns. Linda, welcome to the podcast. I'm really happy to have you here. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody?
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. So my name's Linda Binns. I'm originally from England. I've lived in the US now about 27 years, I think. And I'm in just outside of Portland in Oregon on the West Coast. And I'm an energy coach. I'm laughing because my journey has kind of unfolded over the years. Like, what am I? What do I do? So I help people understand and manage their energy, essentially. And I specialize in working with people who are highly sensitive, who are empaths, highly intuitive, that kind of thing. And I've been doing that now for a good 24 years or so.
That's amazing. And I know because I've spoken to you briefly before today, but I also know because it tends to happen with people who do the kind of work that you do, is that there's always a personal connection to why you do what you do, right? Like nobody just stumbles across working with highly sensitive people if it's not something that they have also dealt with. So why don't you, I would love to hear your story, Linda. You know, I mean, this is all about, we're self-love ignited, right? So we're all about self-love and self-acceptance and really telling the stories of women like you who have come from a place of maybe not liking, not loving, not accepting parts of themselves, to really sort of embracing all that they are. So I would love for you to tell us your story. Where did your struggles with yourself begin?
From the very beginning, it was clear right from the beginning when I was really small that I was not like everybody else in my family. And this was a cause of great frustration to everybody, me included, you know, because I just wanted to be like everybody else. I just wanted to fit in. I couldn't understand why I was being told you're to this or you're to that, or why can't you be more like this? Why can't you be more like that? And so from a very young age, I was made to feel that there was something wrong with me. And so in order to cope with that, I think I learned to shut myself down. I became really good at being invisible. And it's actually, you know, mentioned highly sensitive people. I didn't know that until much, much later, but it's a very common story for those people who are highly sensitive. It's that feeling that you're different, you don't fit in, you don't think the same way as other people do, you don't feel the same way, you see things differently, and you're made to feel wrong because of that. So when everyone around you is making you feel that your very existence is wrong, you know, there's something innately wrong with you. I mean, I suppose everybody handles it in different ways. My way of coping was to kind of shut myself down, become as invisible as I possibly could. And because of that, I mean, self-love was such a foreign concept to me. You know, I had no confidence, no self-esteem, because I didn't think there was anything good about me, to be honest. So that's kind of where I came from. And I thought it was just me. I thought that was just my experience. And I thought everybody else was fine, and I was the one who wasn't. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting thinking about that and talking about that, because I look back at that and I cannot imagine being like that now. I wouldn't recognize that person if she was standing right in front of me, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah. As we sort of go through life and we morph and we change and we grow, it's like you can never put yourself back into the old box that you used to fit in.
No, no, there's
You
never
just
any going back.
no, no. And like you said, you were trying so hard to make yourself invisible, right? To be as small as possible.
Yes.
And you are, well, I mean, you're here today, right? Speaking all about this, being loud and proud and putting your face out there. So you're definitely not doing that anymore.
Not anymore, no. The opposite of that, in fact.
Right,
Yes.
right. So this feeling of being like not enough, feeling like there's something wrong with you, feeling like you had to be invisible, that started in your childhood. How did that follow you into adulthood?
Well, it's always been a part of me, and it still does rear its head from time to time. And that's something I think, this feeling that you're fatally flawed, I think it doesn't go away. This core belief, if you have it, that you're not good enough, which many of us have. I don't know that ever completely goes away, so it still does rear its head from time to time. Difference is now I know how to recognize it and I know what to do with it. So I think for me, the most important thing was getting out of my home environment. I left home when I was 17. I got married when I was 18. I kind of went as far away as I could go. I went to live in another country. My husband that I got married at that time was from another country. And, some people will say, well, you were so young to get married. It was actually the best thing that ever I could have done, because it put me in a family environment for the first time where I guess I was more accepted. Yes, I did think I was a bit strange, but it was because I think it was more to do with I was living in a country called Malta, and I was from England. So, it was, oh, the little English girl, she's just, so it wasn't so much that there was something wrong with me. It was more a difference in culture kind of thing. My marriage only lasted 7 years, but it was the beginning of the journey of me walking away from that constant criticism or feeling that there was something really wrong with me. And then I would say the divorce, once that happened, that was the beginning of me finding my way to myself and figuring out who I am, what I wanted, and what was important to me.
Yeah.
And it has been a journey. I can't say there was any one point where I suddenly woke up and it's like, oh yes, this is it. It's been an unfolding. And I joke with my husband now, it's like he's married to a different person every day. I mean, I really do believe I have breakthroughs every day. I'm constantly learning and growing and changing and becoming a better version of myself. So it's not something you do and then you're done. It's an ongoing thing.
I couldn't agree more. I always say this journey, I mean, really what we're talking about is your relationship with yourself and how you relate to the world. And just like every other relationship in life, there's always new twists and turns, and it's always changing. And as soon as it's stagnant, you're not living anymore. Like I always say, I'm going to be on this journey until the moment I die, because it's this beautiful unfolding. And it's really important, so many people, I think, come into this maybe they step into this journey thinking, oh, I just need to find self-love, or I just need to find self-acceptance, or I just need 6 months and I'll be there. No,
it's a lifelong journey. And I think you need to accept it as a lifelong journey, and you're never done, like you said, until you breathe your last breath, you're never done. It's always about, and it's not so much, I think, about learning self-love or all of these things I think are already inside us. It's already there. It's who we are, but it's just been covered up by so much nonsense, so many lies, so much conditioning. It's more of a stripping away of all of that, sort of letting go of the layers of all of that, so that you start to see, oh my goodness, that was there all the time. It's not something I have to find out there. It's something that's already in here. So let me let go of all of this stuff that I'm not, so I can find out who I really am.
That's gorgeous. That is gorgeous. Yes, 100%. I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah. So Linda, you found yourself, so you got married really young, you moved to Malta, so you were in a different country, and then you said that your marriage lasted 7 years, and that your divorce was sort of like the next step in the evolution, right? Like it was a big part of this. So How did that, because you said the work that you do is with highly sensitive people, and that is what you do. So how did sort of your divorce lead you to discovering yourself as highly sensitive and lead you into the work that you're doing? Because that's a big journey.
Oh, it is a big journey, and it took a long time.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because as somebody who learned how to become invisible, it's interesting to me thinking about this now, because I moved to Malta where I clearly wasn't invisible because I was the English girl, and then sort of after my divorce, well, the divorce was it was make or break time, really, for me. It was the time in my life, like the dark night of the soul, you hear about that, where it's like everything is taken away from you, and you either embrace that and move forward, or you completely fall apart. And I could have fallen apart. I very nearly did. It was a time when I didn't have anybody. I felt I didn't have anybody I could turn to, and I really felt that the easiest option for me, actually, at that point, was to take my life. And I had seriously considered it. I knew how I would do it. The only reason I didn't is because of my dog. I had a dog, and he came with me everywhere, and I just didn't know, what to do with him, and who could look after him, and nobody could look after him like I did. And so he was my protector. He was there for me, and I was there for him. So it was because of him that I really wanted to go on, and just little by little, because when my husband left, he left me in a lot of debt. I lost my home. I had to find another job because I didn't have enough money to live on, and so everything was really taken away from me. So it seemed like everything was hopeless, but little by little I began to make some progress. I got a better job. I managed to find somewhere to live. All of these things. I just started paying down my debt, and just gradually started getting myself out of difficulty. And then when I started to come out of that, really, that's when I met the man I'm married to now, my wonderful husband, Jeff. And we moved, because of his job, we moved to America. And again, it was really funny now I think about it, because we moved to St. Louis in Missouri. And I'd never been to America before. And I thought it was just this very international place. I guess I was thinking East Coast, West Coast, where they're used to seeing people from all different countries. They were not used to that in St. Louis in Missouri at that time. And it was funny because I'd go into a shop or something, and I'd ask for something, and people just stare at me. And I think, I am speaking English. Is there some other way I could say this? And people would say to me all the time, oh, just say something. I love listening to you. And I think, for someone who likes to be invisible, this isn't working too well, And that was my first kind of introduction to, you're not supposed to be invisible. You're supposed to really learn who you are, and just be comfortable being that. So it was kind of the starting point. It's been a long, long journey. And to be honest, the highly sensitive piece of that, I didn't really even know there was such a term as high sensitivity until probably about 15 years ago, maybe. And I just heard the term. I read Elaine Aron's book called The Highly Sensitive Person. And it was like an epiphany, because for the first time in my life, it was like something made sense about me. It was, I finally understood everything that had happened to me, why it had happened, how it had happened, and why I was drawn to do the work that I do. And I realized also that, sort of just without even being aware of it, the people who were drawn to work with me were mainly highly sensitive people. And that's because I understood them at a very deep level, and was able to help. So, it's been a long, long journey, but honestly, I wouldn't change anything now. I really wouldn't, because it's got me to where I am now. But yeah, there've been struggles though.
Oh yeah. There are these like, there's nothing linear about it, right? There's peaks and valleys and ups and downs, and one step forward and two steps back. And
Oh, yeah.
It's just how it goes. But that's how
Yes.
you learn the lesson. We don't learn by putting one foot in front of the other. We learn by falling and getting up and falling and getting up again and again and again.
Yes. Done lots of falling.
Yeah. Oh yes.
But
Oh
I'm
yes.
still here. I'm up.
Oh yes. I'm very, very familiar with the falling and the getting up.
Yeah.
So Linda, do you, and I ask this question of pretty much everybody who comes on the podcast because I'm really genuinely curious. Do you identify with the term self-love? And if not, is there a term that you feel better describes this journey that you are on?
I do identify with the term self-love now, and I didn't for a long time. It's a fairly recent thing. I would say I've only been able to say that maybe within the last 5 years or so. You know, I've done a lot of personal growth work, and you know, a lot of Louise Hay's stuff, for example, which she would have you look in the mirror and say, I love myself, you know, that kind of thing. And I could do that. You know, I could look in the mirror and say, I love you. And I knew I didn't mean it. You know, I knew I didn't mean it. It really didn't. There was just this part of me. It was like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You know, and so to be able to honestly say now, you know what, I do love myself. You know, self-love is a thing. And I can get up in the morning and think, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself today? Or if I'm in a difficult situation, what's the most loving way I can get myself through this? Or what's the most loving thing I can do for myself? I can actually do that now, and I couldn't before.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, I love that you said that you didn't identify with this until a few years ago, because that's, so I'll just tell you, so when I started this podcast in 2020, I chose the name for this podcast, Self-Love Ignited, because I do identify with it. And it was after I'd been doing this a couple of months, I started realizing that a lot of people didn't, right? That it was quite triggering for a lot of people, or that they just thought that it was like so far away from where they were that it was almost obscene to even consider self-love as an option. So do you know, how do I say this? Do you know what the steps were for you? Like, was self-acceptance part of that? Was self-respect? Like, can you identify what those steps were along the way that got you to self-love?
Self-acceptance, most definitely. And the understanding of high sensitivity, understanding that I'm an introvert, a highly sensitive person, and an empath, and what all those things mean energetically, learning to understand my energy and understanding that it's not the same as most other people. And that's okay, because I tried so hard for most of my life to be like other people, to fit in, or to do what other people expected of me. Because, you know, the way I tend to do things, or the way I tend to think about things, is often very strange to other people. And, you know, people always want to tell you, no, you shouldn't do it that way, or you shouldn't feel that way. But I do.
Right.
Right. Or if they want to say, well, these are too sensitive. And now I can honestly say, you know what, there's no such thing as too sensitive. And I'm going to take that as a compliment because I love being sensitive now. It means, yes, there are challenges with it, but there are so many benefits to it as well. And I choose to focus on those. So that acceptance was huge. You mentioned self-respect. That was huge too, because I did not respect myself. I respected everybody else's opinions. I've chosen what other people wanted me to do so many times in the past over what really felt right to me. And I will not do that anymore. I've had some very painful experiences because of that, huge lessons, and I don't do that anymore. So, I celebrate that. That is self-love right there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Self-love is not, I think there's this misconception among a lot of people that self-love is getting a manicure and pedicure, and it's getting a massage. And I mean, those things are beautiful. And if that makes you feel really good, absolutely do them. There's nothing wrong with it. But self-love is that, I always like to say, it's what's happening on the inside. It's what nobody else can see. It's what you think about yourself, what you feel about yourself, how you treat yourself, how your opinion matters most. It's all of that sort of subtle stuff under the surface.
It is, and it's what you say to yourself every day. It's how you talk to yourself every day. It's whether you'll choose what somebody else wants to do over your own decision. You know that you know that doesn't feel right to you, and yet you go along with it because you don't want to upset the other person, or you don't want to make waves, you know, and you don't want to be seen as that person who's awkward.
Yeah.
You know, be awkward.
I know. Right.
It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So Linda, tell us about the work that you do, because the work that you do is really important. And I know that there's going to be people listening to this who are going to be listening going, am I highly sensitive? Is this me? Is she talking about me? So how'd you get into this work, and how can people work with you right now? What does that look like?
Well, I very first started my business as a feng shui practitioner and holistic health consultant. And so I really I saw that as energy of the body and energy of the environment. So it's always all been about energy, but I didn't understand. It just kind of has evolved into what it is now. See, the frustration there was people were always looking for quick fixes. Show me where to hang the wind chime to fix my life, or, you know, what supplement can I take to fix whatever's going on with me? When all the consultations I did, we went so much deeper, and people would say to me, well, this is more like counseling, you know. Mm-hmm. And I realized I couldn't do that in that way anymore, because I could never do the quick fix thing. You know, we always had to go deeper and look at, okay, what's creating this? And we have to, it's all about your energy, what energy you're putting out into your world that's creating the health issues or the situations in your environment. So it's kind of evolved over the years into coaching. And it's not that I never do feng shui or any of that. That always comes into it because environment is so important. So what I do now is really helping people understand their energy and how they're creating what they're creating in their lives. And particularly as highly sensitive people, that's crucial. I mean, everybody needs to understand and learn how to manage their energy. But for highly sensitive people, it is crucial, because you can get so overwhelmed. You can so easily take on other people's energy. Other people can so easily take or manipulate your energy. And it becomes just so overwhelming. And then you don't know what you're dealing with. What's mine? What have I taken on from other people? You know, you just understanding that energy and what's yours, and how to manage your energy and make the most of your energy, keep it as high as possible so other people can't affect you in a negative way. That's so crucial. So that's really what I help people do, is understand that and really learn who they are, and then own who they are and be who they are, and hopefully get to that place of self-love. And I would love to say there's a step-by-step process. You know, do this, and this, and you're there. Wouldn't that be great? But no, I mean, and it's different for everybody, because everybody's experiences are different. And, you know, although you can have the label of high sensitivity, that means different things to everybody. You know, there are different levels of sensitivity. There are different ways it affects you. There are different ways it shows up for you in your life. And so really it's about, that's what we need to do, is learn, what does it mean for me, and what do I do with this? How can I make the most of it rather than letting it overwhelm me?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I was literally going to say, what are some of the markers of a highly sensitive person? But, you know, like, it's different.
Well, if you've ever heard the words, oh, gosh, you're too sensitive, or, you know, something like that, you're too anything really, then you probably are too sensitive. And there are some kind of questionnaires you can do and to find out if you're highly sensitive. But basically, if you get very overwhelmed if you're easily overwhelmed by things, and it's not just, another mistake people make is they think, oh, it's only introverted people who are highly sensitive. No, it isn't. I know plenty of extroverts who are also highly sensitive, but it means, you know, you need to have downtime. Your energy can become so kind of frazzled by being around a lot of people all the time, or by noises, or by smells, or by sort of deadlines at work or something like that. So if you find yourself getting overwhelmed a lot, or if people are saying to you, oh gosh, you're too sensitive, something like that, or making you feel that there's something wrong with you and you've always felt different, like you don't fit in, then you may well be highly sensitive. And what that means for you, is going to be different from everybody else.
Right, right. And what kind of work do you do right now? Do you do one-on-one? Do you have a group offering? What does that look like at the moment?
All of the above. So I do one-on-ones. I do group coaching also, but I also have a lot of online courses. That's my creativity. That's my outlet for my creativity is creating online courses, so that people can go at self-paced kind of thing and learn in their own time. So really it's what there's something for everybody at every level. I have some books as well. My latest book I just wrote, Value Me, and it's kind of the culmination of all of this, for me to be able to finally say that, value me, and that's what we all want, is to be valued, but we have to value ourselves first,
right?
Before
Yes.
anybody else will.
Yes, yes, yes. So Linda, if there's somebody listening to this who's sort of sitting there nodding their head thinking, this sounds like me, oh my goodness, like everything that Linda's saying is sort of what's happening in my life. If there's somebody who's listening to this, who's maybe where you were at the beginning of this journey, right? Maybe just starting to realize that there's nothing wrong with them, that maybe they are okay. Is there like one exercise or practice or tool that you would recommend to help them get started down this path?
I think for me, the tool that helped me the most in the beginning, I would say, had to be journaling. And some people are resistant to that, but I think journaling doesn't have to be, people think, oh, I have to journal for an hour every day or something like that, and it has to be first thing in the morning or whatever. Throw out all the rules and I just use it as a tool. Whenever I've got something going around in my head, I'll use it as a tool to get that out and to help me understand things. So, a great way is to ask yourself a question. Why is this happening in my life? Or why am I feeling like this? Or what do I do about this? And then just allow yourself to write. It's a great way of getting emotions and thoughts out of your body onto paper. And there's no structure to it. Don't make a structure to it. Just kind of free flow writing. Just let yourself write. And what I found from that is that, I'd go back and look at that and I'd be surprised sometimes at what came out. It's a good way of kind of tapping into the unconscious. So I think that's a great way to get started, because also you'll know if you're highly sensitive too, if you tend to overthink. Highly sensitive people tend to overthink, overanalyze, and we can drive ourselves crazy because there's just so much going on in your head. So the journaling piece really helps to get it out of your head and onto paper. And it's not something that you have to keep. I mean, I could not imagine going back and looking at journals from 5 years ago or something. As soon as my book is full, I destroy it, I throw it away. So it's really just a tool to help me get things out and get some clarity.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Linda, if listeners want to get in touch with you, if they want to find out more about your work, where is the best place for them to do that?
The best place is to go to my website. It's lindabins.com. And you can always connect with me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the usual things. But my website's the best place to start.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure that the link for that is in the show notes so that if anybody does want to click on through, it's nice and simple. It'll be right there. So Linda, is there anything else, as we're sort of getting ready to wrap up, is there anything else you would like to add? Any extra thoughts or little bits of wisdom, anything that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I think the most important thing, and people always say, if you went back, was there one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self? And I think for me, it would be trust yourself, because I tended to trust everybody else except myself. And that's been the biggest thing for me, is learning to trust myself, even when if something feels right to you, then it is right for you. Even if everybody else is telling you, oh, don't be silly, the things that they say. But if it feels right to you, then trust that. because this is, as we said in the beginning, it is a journey of getting to know yourself. And the only way you can do that is to trust yourself. The only person who can know you is you. And if you let those other opinions and voices influence you, it will really impact your ability to trust yourself. So I think start there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. Okay. We're going to leave it there on that note of genius. I love it. So thank you so much for joining me today, Linda. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your advice. And I'm really, really grateful for your time and for sharing your energy with us.
Well, thank you, Katie. And thank you for the work you're doing. This is really hugely important work. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. All of the links mentioned during the episode are down in the show notes. Please make sure to go on over and check them out. Also, please remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and I would be forever grateful if you would go on over and leave us a review on iTunes as well. That's going to help this message reach more women. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Here is to you loving yourself.